Real Madrid-Rayo match review. Let's jump straight into the main issue, the starting lineups. Real Madrid, Courtois in goal, Valverde, Asensio, Hausen and Camavinga in defense, Güler, Tchouaméni and Bellingham in midfield, Mastantuono, Mbappé and Vinicius up front. Rayo, Batalla in goal, Rațiu, Lejeune, Mendy and Chavaria in defense, Patesis and Gumbaues the double pivot, Iliash and Garcia on the wings, Isi Palason as the attacking midfielder, De Frutos up front. Vinicius has the first action of the match in the second minute. Puts in a cross but there's nobody in front of goal. Then tries to fire up the crowd. He gets whistles in return and he still has a long way to go to fully win back the Madrid fans. The first big chance, however, comes at Real's goal. Iliash, the former Barcelona player, gets into the box almost unchallenged, finds himself in a very good position but completely messes up the finish. 9th minute, very bad news for Real Madrid. Bellingham feels a sharp pain and can't even finish a sprint. He gets up but can't continue and Brahim Diaz comes in his place. The game settles down for about 5 minutes until Vinicius steps up. He gets the ball where he likes it most, spins Rațiu about 3 times, hits a brilliant shot, the keeper has no chance and it's 1-0. 3 minutes later he could make it a brace after a move created by Arda Güler. Batalla saves the first effort, then Vinicius hits it first time but doesn't get it on the target. In the 24th minute, Rayo has an important chance through Rațiu, who surprisingly loses a foot race with Valverde. Minute 31, Rațiu crosses again for De Frutos, but he fails to make contact with the ball and Courtois collects. Another shot that doesn't really trouble the Belgian keeper comes in the 35th minute from a central position. Hard to score from there without a top-class finish. 2 minutes later, De Frutos tries again. This one is better but still just over. In the 43rd minute, Real are very close to making it 2-0, but after a nicely built move, Brahim Diaz is far too unselfish and wastes the chance by trying to pass. Hausen has one right after that, but his effort is blocked. Real was pushing hard to extend the lead. Rayo do get forward too, with a counter-attack led by Isi Palason, who shoots, the ball is deflected for a corner. The effort looked fairly promising. A few moments later, Isi lays it off for Iliash to shoot, but ends up blocking his teammate's attempt himself, being right in the trajectory. Halftime whistle, still with whistles from the stands, Vinicius looking unhappy, while Mbappé is laughing in a rather defiant way. Now, Real first half wasn't that bad. They could have scored 1 or 2 more, but I guess the crowd punished them for not scoring more, and probably even more than that for the lack of defensive effort towards the end of the half. After the break, Ceballos comes on for Asensio. Tchouaméni drops back into defense again, we've seen this before, but it was a strange move, because the weaker defender had actually been Hausen. The second half starts with a shoot from Gumbau, but Courtois saves. Vinicius breaks on the counter, can't reach the ball and goes down, maybe hoping to get something. A few seconds later, Mbappé is in the box, feels Rațiu's hands on him and goes down, maybe hoping to get something as well. There was contact, just like Mbappé also pulled Rațiu's shirt. No penalty, it would have been far too soft. The move of pushing Tchouaméni into central defense pays off, but not for Real Madrid. After a recycled ball into the box, De Frutos gets in front of the Frenchman and scores. Rayo equalize right after the break with another chorus of whistles erupting at the Bernabeu. 55th minute, Vinicius in the box, dribbles out of the field, goes down very easily, maybe hoping again. Nothing there either, but VAR also checks Mbappé, who had gone down at the same time. 2 players diving at the same time in the box asking for a penalty, that's pretty rare, and I don't want to sound malicious towards Real Madrid. Double substitution for Rayo, and even the goal scorer comes off. I'm not sure how expected that move was. Real get a free kick taken quite well by Arda Güler, but Vinicius clips the ball with his shoulder and wastes the opportunity. Arbeloa brings on Gonzalo Garcia, probably also driven by the criticism after the Benfica game. Mastantuono goes off, who had barely been involved anyway. 64th minute, after chaos in Rayo's box, Rațiu breaks on the counter in a very unusual situation. He's a defender going like a striker on the counter, chased by Gonzalo Garcia, who is an actual striker. But Rațiu can't beat Courtois, as he couldn't beat the Barcelona keeper in that game as well, when he missed a similar chance. I think that's his kryptonite. Against big team, he loses his composure in front of goal. Real miss one too, incredibly. Another counter after a corner, Mbappé is almost one-on-one with Batalla, who was playing almost like a holding midfielder there, gets past him but hits the post. 76th minute, Hausen looks like he has a grudge against Courtois, plays him a terrible pass and forces him to concede a corner. Nothing comes of it, but what a disastrous game Hausen was having up to that point. Rodrigo and Alaba come on, Arda Güler and obviously Hausen go off. Minute 80, Vinicius goes down again, maybe hoping for something. No foul there either, he could have easily been booked for diving. Before Vinicius even finishes protesting, Patesis gets a straight red for a horror tackle on Ceballos. No debate there, whether it was intent or panic, it's still a red. Ceballos himself has the next chance, a very good shot from the edge of the box just wide. Vinicius is still protesting, gets into it with Ilias, pushing him to leave the pitch faster. He gets booked as well, and he'll miss Real's next match. 85th minute, Real hit the woodwork again. A cross into the box, Camavinga deflects but not enough to turn it into a goal. Next phase, Batalla is forced into another save, this time from Brahim Diaz. Shortly after, Mbappé dives again in the box, maybe hoping for something. He could have easily seen yellow for simulation too. 9 minutes of added time are shown, which somehow makes sense given all the stoppages. Extra time begins, Brahim Diaz goes down in the box as well, maybe hoping for something. It might sound like I have something against Real Madrid, but it's embarrassing when everyone does this. Minute 95, Rodrigo takes a short corner, combines with Vinicius and Ceballos, gets into this position but shoots straight at the keeper. Minute 98 out of 99, Brahim goes down in the box and this time he gets a penalty. I don't really know what to say. It's true the defender kicked Brahim after the challenge, but he also played the ball first with his other foot. Maybe it's covered by the rules, I really don't know, but I think it's very soft. Mbappé scores after a game in which he was barely noticeable. He has another chance right after the goal. Rayo had thrown everyone forward and got caught on the counter, but the keeper saves. Real sent two players to the corner flag to round down the clock. Rodrigo wins a yellow for Chavaria, who then gets sent off as it was his second booking. The match finally ends, a narrow win for Real and a lot of frustration for Rayo, who really had it in their hands. Even though they close back to within 1 point of Barcelona, Madrid are living dangerously. They didn't play a great game, they could have gone into the break 2-0 or 3-0 up, but that was only because they had a few good counterattacks. Otherwise, once again, their main problem was obvious: lack of interest and the lack of intensity. After 1-0, they thought the game was done, and Rayo punished them. If Lazio had scored that chance, I don't think Real would have turned it around, because they would be open for other counters again. Still, somehow they got the job done. And I honestly don't understand why they don't always play with the enthusiasm they showed at the end. It feels like they don't care, like they are not willing to put in even an ounce of effort beyond the bare minimum. But let's talk about the players. Courtois still flawless, nothing to criticize, he saved what he could, made no mistakes. Without him, Real would be 3 or 4 places lower in the table. Valverde good considering he's still a midfielder playing at right back, won almost all the tackles, 3 key passes, 8 defensive actions, solid. Asensio not great, not terrible, I didn't expect him to be subbed, I don't know if it was an injury issue, you know he's not my favorite at all, but compared to his center back partner he looked okay. Hausen, I don't want to rush it, maybe it's just bad form and temporary, but I still don't understand what Real Madrid saw in him. In the first half he played a pass into midfield, and then in the second one that pass back to Courtois, things I didn't even see from Langlais when he was at Barcelona. He looks like he's always playing with a cold, always half a step behind, slow, inattentive. The only positive is his height on set pieces, otherwise he's been really poor. Camavinga somewhat similar to Valverde, though he did make some more mistakes and fouls, but as long as he's an emergency solution and the team wins, you can't criticize him too harshly. Tchouaméni very weak, partly because he had an off day, partly because he's again used as a defender, where he struggles. The conceded goal is about 90% his fault, otherwise Otherwise, he was average at best, didn't make other big errors, but overall he was barely noticeable, almost hiding from the ball. There's not much to say about Bellingham, he barely played, and his replacement didn't exactly shine in build-up either. But Brahim did win the penalty, which is an important contribution. Mastantuono, quiet, didn't take risks, lots of backward passes, he seemed more affected by the whistles than other players, and I don't think he was the main target. He must look great in training if he keeps starting the matches, because otherwise I don't find him convincing, at least not yet. Güler more involved, and in his case it's the opposite. I don't understand why he doesn't play more. It's clear he brings balance to the attack and produces results. He reminds me of Ozil, but keeping the proportions, a player who put up good numbers but had to leave Real to feel properly appreciated. I'm not saying that will happen with Arda, just that he seems underrated. Here, in my opinion, he was the most visible midfielder, the only one who actually tried something from the starting 11. Up front, even though both scored, their performances were at opposite ends of the spectrum. No personal attack there, but Mbappé was a full-on penalty merchant in this game. He didn't exist during open play. The first time he showed up was that shot of the post, which wasn't really his merit but the pass, probably from Vinicius. Then he also had that chance gifted by Bataya's bizarre positioning and still didn't score. After that he disappeared completely and reappeared only for the penalty. Credit to him for converting, but overall performance was very modest. Then there's Vinicius, probably the best player on the pitch. A goal fully created by himself early on, more chances, more dangerous moments that didn't turn into goals. In his duel with Ratiu, especially in the first half, he did whatever he wanted. It looked like he didn't even have an opponent. He can be an excellent player when he feels like it, I've said that before, but the protests, dives and constant complaining completely threw me off. I just can't look at him in a good way, no matter how hard I try. As a Brazil supporter myself, I feel like he's going to give me a grey hair at the World Cup. And that was the game. As I said, Real close back to 1 point, but they're walking on thin ice. The football doesn't look convincing, they are very weak in midfield, they don't press properly, they don't defend properly. Arbeloa has a lot of work to do to get this team back on track. And that's it. If you enjoyed the analysis, make sure to drop a like and hit subscribe. The channel is still at the very beginning and every bit of support really helps. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.